So after creating the S3 bucket, now we move to the boto3 part. So first, we want to talk about Python SDK boto3. So a Python SDK is a software development kit. It's a collection of tools, libraries, and IPEs, application programming interfaces, that enable developers to interact with a particular platform or service using the Python programming language. In our case, boto3 is the SDK, the Python SDK, that will help us interact with the AWS services. So boto3 is the Python SDK in our case. It is for interacting with AWS services. It provides an easy to use interface for developers in order to work with AWS resources such as EC2 instances, S3 buckets, DynamoDB tables, SQS queues, and many other AWS services. Using boto3, we can perform various operations on AWS resources directly from the Python script without needing to use AWS Management Console or other tools. You don't need to use the console like we have created the bucket. You can use boto3 or other tools. So some common tasks that we can perform with boto3 include the creation of new EC2 instances, S3 buckets, DynamoDB tables, etc. We can update the configuration or attributes of existing AWS resources. We can delete AWS resources when they are no longer needed. We can retrieve information about AWS resources such as their status, metadata, and properties, and many other things that we can do with boto3. So this usage of boto3 needs permission. We need permissions. So the user or the service making the API calls, the API calls between AWS services and between the user, right? The user wants to create something or wants to delete something. This is a request through boto3. It's an IPE call, must have this IPE calls. These IPE calls must have the actual permissions, to call AWS APIs, Those permissions are controlled by the AWS Identity Access Management Service, the Identity Access Management Policy. We should have, as we will see in the hands-on, we should have the access key, we should have the secret key, we should have these credentials to access, to make the calls, These policies should be granted to the user, or to the service through the IAM role, So this is an image from the documentation of boto3 in AWS. And if you are interested, you can read, for example, the difference between boto3 and boto core, boto3 client versus boto3 resources. This is already exist in the documentation of boto3. It's available with examples and many interesting things. Which easier to use, resource abstraction or client abstraction? So you can enjoy reading about these three topics. Our course is for ETL with AWS and Terraform, so we cannot talk about everything, but this is 3 points that you can focus on. Thank you.